When you hear the name Nike, you probably think of one of the biggest sporting brands on earth. A company worth hundreds of billions of dollars. A company whose logo is recognized almost everywhere. But here's the surprising part. Nike wasn't supposed to be called Nike. In fact, for years, Nike didn't exist at all. The company had a completely different name. And without a series of unlikely events, one of the world's most famous brands might never have been created. This is the story of why Nike is called Nike. To understand where Nike came from, we need to go back to the early 1960s. At the time, the athletic shoe industry looked very different. European brands dominated the market. Adidas was becoming the name in sports footwear. Most Americans simply bought whatever athletic shoes were available. Few people thought much about running shoes. One person who did was a young runner named Phil Knight. Knight had competed in track at the University of Oregon. His coach was Bill Bowerman. Bowerman wasn't just a coach. He was obsessed with helping athletes run faster. He constantly experimented with shoes. He cut them apart, modified them, and searched for ways to make them lighter. Phil Knight shared Bowerman's interest in athletics, but he was also fascinated by business. While attending graduate school at Stanford, Knight developed an idea. At the time, Japanese cameras were beginning to challenge German manufacturers. Knight wondered whether Japanese running shoes could do the same thing to German brands like Adidas. The idea stayed with him. After graduation, he traveled to Japan. There, he discovered a company called Onitsuka Tiger. Today, it's known as ASICS. Knight was impressed by their shoes. They were affordable, well-made, and potentially competitive with the established European brands. Even though he didn't actually have a company yet, Knight told Onitsuka Tiger that he represented an American distributor called Blue Ribbon Sports. The company existed mostly in his imagination, but somehow it worked. He secured the rights to distribute Tiger shoes in the United States. And just like that, Blue Ribbon Sports was born. In the beginning, Blue Ribbon Sports was tiny. There was no headquarters. No massive warehouse. No army of employees. Phil Knight sold shoes from the trunk of his car. He would drive to track meets and athletic events, open the trunk, and show runners a better alternative to the shoes they were already wearing. It wasn't glamorous, but it worked. Athletes appreciated the quality. Word began to spread. Eventually, Knight convinced Bill Bowerman to become a partner. This turned out to be one of the most important decisions in the company's history. Bowerman wasn't just a coach. He was an innovator. He constantly provided feedback on shoe designs and looked for ways to improve performance. Together, Knight and Bowerman made an effective team. One focused on business. The other focused on product development. As the 1960s progressed, Blue Ribbon Sports continued growing. Sales increased year after year. The company opened stores, built a reputation among serious runners, and slowly established itself within the growing running community. What began as a small distribution operation was becoming a legitimate business. The timing was perfect. America was about to experience a running boom. More people were becoming interested in fitness. Road races were growing in popularity. Demand for athletic footwear was increasing. Blue Ribbon Sports was positioned to benefit. By the end of the decade, the company had become far more successful than anyone expected. But success created a new problem. Blue Ribbon Sports depended almost entirely on Onitsuka Tiger. And that relationship was beginning to crack. As Blue Ribbon Sports grew larger, tensions developed between the two companies. Both sides wanted more control. Both sides questioned the future of the partnership. Eventually, it became clear that Blue Ribbon Sports needed something it had never had before. Its own brand, its own products, its own identity. If the company wanted to survive, it could no longer rely on someone else's shoes. That decision would change everything. In 1971, Blue Ribbon Sports prepared to launch its own line of footwear. There was just one problem. The company needed a name, and time was running out. Production schedules were moving forward. Boxes were being prepared, but nobody could agree on what to call the new brand. Various ideas were discussed. None felt right. Then an employee named Jeff Johnson suggested a name. According to the story, the idea came to him in a dream. Nike, named after the Greek goddess of victory. The word was simple, short, memorable, and unlike many competitors, it represented something bigger than a product. It represented winning. Phil Knight reportedly wasn't completely sold on the idea, but deadlines have a way of forcing decisions. The company needed a name. Nike was chosen, and one of the greatest branding decisions in business history was made. The brilliance of the name became obvious over time. Athletes don't buy shoes because they love rubber and fabric. They buy shoes because they want results. They want to perform better, compete harder, run faster, win. The name Nike connected directly to that aspiration. Victory wasn't just part of the brand. It was the brand. As the company grew, Nike continued building around that message. Every major campaign reinforced it. Every endorsement strengthened it. Every product launch expanded it. The company wasn't selling shoes. It was selling achievement. Today, most people never stop to think about the meaning behind the name. That's because Nike has become larger than the word itself. Few people hear Nike and think about Greek mythology. They think about sports, competition, great athletes, and success. But none of that was guaranteed. The company started as Blue Ribbon Sports, a small operation run from the trunk of a car, a distributor with no products of its own, a business that depended on another company's shoes. And yet through timing, innovation, persistence, and one surprisingly simple name, it transformed into one of the most powerful brands in the world. Not bad for a company that almost wasn't called Nike at all. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe to the channel to get notifications for our new videos. Feel free to suggest business brands we should cover next in the comments below.